Hi, we're live today, and it's today the Ask DNA Scientist session for this week. And today I had a question regarding the gene MTHFR, and that has got a lot of press. People are asked to get tested for it. And so I'm just going to approach it from where I'm at with it. And so before I begin, I'll introduce myself. And I'm a DNA scientist, Charan Surdhar. And my background is as a geneticist for 13 years. And so after that, I left that to then do this work where I work with people with on the epigenetic side of things. So let's just go into this a little bit because what I want to do is really introduce the whole concept of genetics and epigenetics. Now, I did a whole video on epigenetics itself. So you could go to YouTube or one of my Facebook Lives a couple of weeks ago and check that out for more details on that. But I'm going to just gloss over it today because I think it's important before we actually discuss that particular gene. So genetics is where we have the belief system that everything that we've inherited, we're born with, is our destiny. Okay, so we become, in our minds, victims to that. And what that does to our physiology is actually it takes us into fight or flight. So you're constantly living in that fear of something's going to happen to me because I inherited a particular genetic makeup from my parents, and they had a particular disease, and my ancestors had that, and so that's my destiny. So that's genetics, and very disempowering. Epigenetics is where it's not the DNA that contributes to your biology, but everything around your DNA. So that, like I said, I refer you back to that video because I used a lot of props to explain that in a way. So it's all around the DNA. So you have just briefly your emotions, your belief systems, the traumas of your ancestors that may have created a certain energy. They all influence the way that your DNA is expressed. So what does that do to your biology? That shifts things completely, because instead of being in fight or flight, now you're actually recognizing that there's a freedom in how you can show up no matter what there is. So, like I said, it was important for me to just mention that, because when we go into, if you're unfamiliar with epigenetics, then it becomes something that's foreign, and it's difficult to understand. So and you might think, what am I going on about? So that's why I had to explain that first. So let's go to the gene itself. So the it's a bit of a mouthful. The MTHFR gene. What is it? Why is it important? Well, it produces it's an enzyme. It produces an enzyme, and that enzyme, ultimately, in short, what that results in is it results in, I made notes because I had to study it. So it results in a particular molecule, and that molecule plus, we're going to make it real simple, okay? plus adenosine results in a product called SAMI, okay? So this is a methyl donor, and it's actually for methylation. So what does that mean? Okay, so this is important because it actually comes up with epigenetics. So that gene produces an enzyme plus adenosine results in SAMI, which is a methyl donor. Okay, so simple, just very simple. And methyl donor is this. So last week, well, a couple of weeks ago, you saw me discuss about, if you haven't, like I said, go check it out, epigenetics. And I was using Play-Doh. So we're going to get my Play-Doh out again. So that is the DNA, right? Now, the DNA is sometimes, no, let's go back. So the DNA, here you've got the DNA, and methyl donors, the methyl is a molecule that attaches itself to the DNA strand, okay? So there you got the DNA. Now this goes and attaches itself to the DNA strand like this, okay? So you just think there's loads of these just in around the DNA. Now, if this is the, for example, the MTHFR gene, okay, and this can be applied to any gene, it will always have these methyl groups on it. And we also have things called histones, which basically results in the DNA kind of getting really locked up like this. So you've got that, and you've got this. So that's on a physical level, okay? And this is where then it blocks the expression of the DNA. So when you're talking about the MTHFR gene itself, hang on, let me just back up. So on a physical level, you've got all of this that's going on. And so when the gene wants to express itself, it opens up and not, you know, it kind of opens up, and then it's available for the expression. So the proteins come along, you know, the other things that happen that create the proteins, all of that begins to happen as it opens up. But these methyl groups make a difference as to what that expression is going to be. So like I said, they can be everywhere, you know, and anywhere, and just blocking the expression. So on a physical level, you've got that. Okay, so that's how expression happens. Another big factor in epigenetics is like I said, your emotions, the belief systems, and the other perceptions and you know, all of that that's actually around the DNA. Okay, this is a very simplistic model of it. So those things are around the DNA. Let's get this one over here. I was going to doodle, but I couldn't get my technical stuff up and running. Okay, so there's the methyl group, there's the belief systems, your ancestors, and all of that. Oops. Okay, Play-Doh's falling apart. Okay, so that's the ancestral stuff, okay, and your own traumas that also influence it. So you've got all these factors that are influencing the way that this gene is expressed. So can you see the complexity of that? And so these emotions, not emotions, the belief systems, the energy of our ancestors, the traumas that we've experienced, the energy that's there from that is here. And that is influencing how that's expressed. So if this is your any gene, okay, MTHFR gene, it is in the way of how that is expressed. So again, I do refer you to that epigenetics video because I did talk a lot about how you can come into expression in alignment with the divinity within you. So the question then is, why is the MTHFR gene such a big deal? Okay, so here it is. You've got 2 strands of DNA. This is the gene, but other than it being twisted around, I've just straightened it out for us to explain something. So here we have one from your mom, one from your dad. They come together, and this is what you've inherited, say, the MTHFR gene. And what happens is that, let me get my marker out. There's this particular, the gene is made up of letters, okay? And these letters make up sentences. And those sentences are influenced, as to which sentence is read, is influenced by that stuff that you've inherited and also other things. But on a physical level, the reason why this gene is a big deal, and other genetic conditions, is because you've inherited somewhere along there that is different. And it could be on one, it could be one from your mom, it could be one from your dad, or it could be both. Okay, for in this example, let's say it's both, or we could turn it around and say one or the other, whatever. So you've inherited this from your mom and dad. So when we come to genetics, we're saying that that's the sentence that's going to be read, because those 2 different letters are there. That's what that means, by the way, is that there is a different letter there. So the sentence is read differently. So if that's the case, then we're looking at genetics and saying, well, that is what is my makeup, and that is what my expression is going to be. But when you think about what I just said about epigenetics and how you've got the energies that you've inherited from your ancestors, okay, which is represented by this, and also the traumas that you've experienced in your life, resulting in particular energies that have kind of, it's in the mix, because you've got to think about this is not, it's all energy. We've got to, again, I really do refer you to that video. I keep saying that because I did talk a lot about that. So this, and I don't want to repeat it in every video because it is important information. And it takes a while to explain it again and again, so that's why I'm referring you to that. So this is the ancestral stuff and your traumas and all of that, and it's all surrounding the DNA. Now, as I said, that's going to influence how your DNA is expressed. What sentence is going to be read? Okay, so yes, on one level, you've got the physical letter change in there, in your gene, and that results in reading a particular sentence, which then results in the particular proteins in the body. Then, and I was looking it up, that, you know, there's, if you have these variants, which is what that means, these differences, then it will result in particular, you can look it up, Google it, you'll find it, all these particular conditions. But like I said, every gene can be expressed in many, many ways. With epigenetics, the possibilities are infinite because it depends on what you're holding and what is in place. So I even, while I was looking and sort of finding information about it before this live, what I saw as well was that there's no, there was somewhere where it says it was lacking to say, the information that's being put out there, it was lacking in the sense that it couldn't prove that just having these variants could result in the particular, you know, diseases and all of that. So, you know, it's like the BRCA1 gene, that, you know, Angelina Jolie, which, I mean, that's entirely her choice. That's where she was, and that's respected. But for example, just for example's sake, you want to say that she had that BRCA1 gene there, and that was the difference. And so there's a 50% chance that she would have breast cancer. But there was all this stuff on there, which part of which was her fear of that particular expression happening. And so that fear, you know, can influence that, can influence that expression in a way that it results in down-regulating the health genes, up-regulating the stress genes, and it just kind of goes into a whole vicious cycle. So any gene will have on a physical level this variant or variants, one from parents, one from mom, but it also has all the other things that we just talked about, the ancestral your stuff and your fear around what is going to show up if you have that. So, you know, the important thing here is to recognize that underlying all of this, we have source consciousness. This is representative of source consciousness. This is the energy that makes the earth go around the sun. This is the energy that makes the planets, you know, move around. It makes a seed grow into a plant. It allowed you to become, you know, grow in the womb, you know, in perfection. I mean, you didn't have to say where your nose was going to be. It just happens. So this exists inside of us, just like that. And it's always there. So we've got to remember that presence within us is perfect. It knows the right expression of that. But what happens is when we have fear and we have the other stuff that's in the way, then that can shift the expression into that of, you know, down-regulating the health genes, up-regulating the stress genes. And so all of that, you know, all of that has an impact. And I just want to say so much. It's just articulating it all to come out finally. We've got to think of ourselves as a conglomerate of these beautiful, like an orchestra. That's how we are. All our cells, if we have 3 billion cells in our body, we are like an orchestra of, you know, this beautiful music. And it's all being orchestrated by the infinite consciousness within us. And so like I said, having all these other belief systems and other energies there, hang on, it gets in the way of that source consciousness energy. It kind of comes through, but gets, what's the word for it? It gets refracted, if you want to call it that, refracted in a way, resonating with what we're holding on to. So how do we know what this is? Well, we know by the way we feel. And so it's important to actually understand in every moment, what is it that we're feeling? Because as we feel that and not get engaged with the thoughts that are going on, what happens is that we're actually getting in touch with source consciousness, our divinity within us. And that is then able to integrate what we're holding into, it sounds very, into the light, but into the pure into the wholeness that you are. And this helps with everything. So then when you do that, you're actually allowing the particular gene, say in this example, we're talking about the MTHFR gene. It allows for the expression of this gene to be in alignment with that divinity within you. And so the question is, you know, people say, well, should I get tested for it? That is your choice. But the important thing is, what are you feeling about it? That's the question. Because the minute you come to that, you're actually getting in touch with this. As soon as you get in touch with this, you've got in touch with this source consciousness, and source consciousness in that moment can take care of that. And so the expression of the gene, which I forgot to mention, each gene, the different sentences that it can read, there's over 20, 30,000. You have to look at different places, you find different numbers, but it is that you can literally, from one gene, you can read that many sentences. So if that's the case, that you can read that many sentences from one particular gene, and you have those variants there, one from your mom, one from your dad, or one from your mom and one from your dad, and none from the other, or the other way around. Well, in that case, if it can be read that many times, and you know now that you're always in alignment with source consciousness, and you know that this stuff that you've inherited and things, the emotions, the beliefs that you hold is there, that's all resulting in being over the 1,000 times the different expression. You can create any expression through that of that particular gene. Then wouldn't it be interesting, I want to say, if we got in touch with the pure consciousness by just allowing ourselves to feel what we feel? So not to come, I don't want to say not to come from fear, because it's important to actually feel that. I was speaking to someone yesterday, and it was a very interesting conversation because of what came through. You know, I say, if we're looking at this and we're trying to clear this all the time and say, well, I've got to do this, and then I've got to get rid of this, and then if I get tested, and I'm not saying this is what I'm saying, it's your choice, but just giving you an example, if I get tested, then I'll know this, and then I'll know this, and what is that? It's all playing with this stuff, right? So what if you just went beneath that and you went to the sensations that you feel, and the minute you do that, you're in touch with the pure expression within you, and that allows the expression of the DNA to just come into alignment with that. Isn't that just the beautiful orchestra that we are, and how we can play all of this, be a conduit for this expression? So that is the explanation of that. I'm going to, if there's any questions, I'm going to go scroll. I've seen some questions come up. So let me see. Okay, so Robin, you're saying energy blocks. Yes, that's right. If I think what you're referring to, yes. Dory, yes, nervous system regulation can shift which chemicals are released in the body when there is fear, stress, or anxiety. Exactly, and that's, sorry, I meant to come back to that point that I was mentioning with this individual yesterday, was that if you're standing in the sun and you're facing the sun, if the sun's that way and you're facing your shadow, you're always going to be looking at this. You're always going to be looking at what is it that's there that I need to work on, to do. And that, you know, could it be, what am I eating? What am I, you know, and all those things are important. Please don't get me wrong. Of course they're important. But when we come from the fear of what it is that we're avoiding, then we're changing the chemistry of our body to be in alignment with that fear, no matter what we do, because we're facing the shadow. But when we face the sun, which is to feel what we feel and get in touch with that pure consciousness in there, and that's the DNA around it. It's not true that it's around it, but it's everywhere. But just for this example, then imagine being at 12 o'clock and the sun is right above you, and then there's no shadow, right? So it just takes our presence to get to that place. And then from that place, you will get inspired to eat a certain thing or do a certain thing. And then that's inspired action, and it's not coming from the fear of looking at the shadow. This is extremely important, because if you just look at things that you do in your day that are coming from you looking at your shadow and not in the presence of the sun, which is your source consciousness, your pure energy, then you're influencing your DNA to be expressed in a way that's in alignment with excess cortisol, all of that. Even if you're going and having a green smoothie, yes, it will benefit you, but on another level, it's actually coming from fear. So then the body chemistry is going to be shifting to that. So this is so important, because whatever we do has to come from inspired action, and it has to come from presence within ourselves to that pure consciousness. And when we come from that place, we shift our biology, no matter what gene we're talking about. We shift our biology to a place where it's in alignment with that. What does that mean? That means it's lowered stress hormones. It's more growth there's you know, just think of a flower. It's just growing towards the sun. It's just flourishing. So yes, going back to that conversation that I had. So I said to her, I said, awareness shifts your biology. That shifts your behavior. Okay? Which I said was inspired action. And I'm just when you feel the sensations in your body, you're actually, like I said, getting in touch with that. You're bringing your body into a state of well-being, just like in the womb. It just happens. The body just knows, or consciousness within knows what to create, where fingers got to be, where the thumbs got to be, all of that. So just to make it really simple, think of being, are you following anything that you do? Are you following the shadow and trying to come from a place of catching the shadow, shifting the shadow, wanting to work with the shadow? Or can you come into the place of presence where you shift your biology to that place where it's in alignment with that, and the expression of the gene, no matter what variant you've got, is in alignment with that, which is health and well-being. So, thank you, Dory. Let's see. Robin, you say, need to be careful what you're bringing in. We can make such turmoil within. Yes, absolutely. And yes, the body is amazing. It really is. And can we give it a chance by allowing ourselves to align with that pure consciousness within? So, to conclude with the gene that we're talking about, it's your choice whether you want to get tested for that. And I said you can Google it and you can find out all the different diseases that happen. But knowing what you know after what you've listened to today, you make a conscious decision as to, in every moment, how you want to be present in your life, because that is what's going to influence your whole biology. That is key. And I really mean that. It is, if you take anything away from today, it's that. That is key. Okay, so any questions? If you post them, I'll get to them. I'll be putting this on YouTube. And also, if you, if even after it's finished, you want to post the questions, I'll get to them. And if you need any more information, then please go to my website, charansurdhar.com. I'm going to be, the page isn't up there yet, but I am actually already providing this for people. It's one-to-one sessions of, it's called the Genome Quantum DNA Healing Sessions. And what that really is basically holding this frequency of pure source consciousness like a light up to you, and you recognizing your own. And as you do that, it helps to integrate all of your wholeness, all of this into wholeness. And as you do that, your expression shifts into this perfection. So it's quite amazing what can happen with that. So that's going to be, the page isn't set up yet. So if you are interested in that, then please just message me and I'll send you the information. And other than that, that's it. I haven't got, well, actually I have got a question for next week, but I want to, if you have any other questions, please just post them, send them to me. What would you want a DNA scientist, what do you need to know? And I am happy to answer them there, you know, as I said, every Tuesday at this particular time. So I shall see you then. Question here. Oh, thank you, Sonia. Bless you. Robin, can you feel others' expressions within others when you're holding space within the healing? Good question. Are you talking about DNA expressions? Because that's what that would mean is sensations ultimately. The answer to that question is that when we're working, you know, when I was, let's go back to when I used to work the way I did. It was, I also used to do this, which was, you know, okay, let's look at the shadow. Let's look at the shadow. Keep looking at the shadow. Let's do that. And I get people coming to me and saying, you know what? I am so tired of looking at the shadow that I'm just tired of it and I don't want to look at that anymore. So it's like, well, when in quantum physics, if you keep looking at the shadow, you're going to keep seeing stuff. But if you come to the pure essence and the pure expression of your truth, and in those sessions, that's what happens. Is, I'll go back to your question. Do I feel the others? Okay. Now, if I was to feel, I feel a lot when I'm working, but I don't put a label on anything, because if I label any of it, it's almost like we're creating, I guess, it's kind of, see, well, I want to start talking about quantum physics now, and it's almost the end of the call. So, so you're going from waves to particles. So if I actually have anything that I stick to, if I think, oh, look at that, that was really interesting, maybe that's that, well, then I'm kind of getting stuck in that. So I don't really do that, and I just stay in that space where it just allows for the pure expression of the DNA to happen. So that, in short, is the answer to your question. Okay. All right. So that's the end of today's call. And like I said, if you need any information, go to my website. And if you want to have any of those sessions, just message me. I shall have that page up soon. And other than that, questions for me anytime. And I shall see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye now.